Dear colleagues, in this video I want to share with you my experience in removal of calcificated artificial lenses. These lenses were implanted about 5 years ago, and because of deterioration of visual acuity I decided to remove it. Some colleagues said this is impossible to remove this lens many years after the surgery, but when the certain conditions are met, it is possible. First case is a reimplantation of the artificial lens. Every implantation have some stable steps. First steps is to separate the lens from the capsula using spatula. When we have a space created between the lens and the capsula, I introduce the viscoelastic behind and forward to the lens. When the lens is able to be moved, I remove it from the capsula and introduce it into the anterior chamber. After this, as you see now, I cut this lens into two or some pieces and remove it from the eye. Because we have a capsula, intact capsula, I introduce another model, the same model of this bifocal lens, into the capsula. Before it, I introduce the capsular tension ring to save the shape of the capsula. Which conditions have to be safe to remove such lenses? First is the material. Hydrophilic material also causes the presence of PCO, and when we have a PCO, it is very important, because we haven't such high adhesion of the lens to the capsula, and only in such cases we can remove this lens many years after the surgery. If we have a lens made with hydrophobic material, we usually don't observe the PCO, but the connection between the lens and the capsula is very high, and even if we have a problem with hydrophobic lens many years after the surgery, we usually have to remove with this lens with the capsula. In the second case, as you see, we have additional more difficulties. It's the eye after the posterior vitrectomy and the presence of posterior capsulorhexis. I remove this lens and now I try to implant it into the capsula, and the surgery finished with implantation, synchedral implantation of the lens into the capsula instead of the presence of posterior capsulorhexis. Last maneuvers in the eye, and this is the finish of the surgery. Thank you for your attention.